In tonight's Government Insider, the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, despite objections from privacy advocates, CISA is moving closer to a final vote this week. What can we expect? For the very latest, we turn to our guest tonight on Capitol Insider, Alexei Alexis, Capitol Hill's cybersecurity reporter for Bloomberg BNA. Alexei, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start at the very beginning. Give us a rough overview of the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act. What is it supposed to do?
Well, what this legislation is designed to do is to encourage U.S. companies to share more information about cyber threats, both with one another and with the federal government. And for example, if a company discloses that it was hacked to a government or industry partner, what this bill would do is wipe out any lawsuits that might be filed by consumers or shareholders.
But numerous privacy groups have come out against the measure, including Apple and Twitter. Why do they call CISA the wrong solution to the problem of cybercrime?
Well, the critics of this bill are concerned that it would authorize a sweeping information sharing program that would allow agencies like the NSA to get greater access to people's personal information. And that concern has only increased after the surveillance programs that were exposed by Edward Snowden. And Congress has tried, members of Congress have tried for several years now to get this kind of legislation passed, and privacy has been a big obstacle, but at this point the legislation is as close as it's ever been to being passed by Congress.
In terms of some of the amendments that have been offered up, any likelihood that those will pass?
Well, the sponsors of the legislation have already accepted a number of mostly non-controversial amendments. Obviously, that hasn't appeased the privacy advocates, and there are a number of senators who still have concerns who would like to push amendments. Whether they'll have enough support at this point remains to be seen.
A big day tomorrow. The Senate is scheduled to take up a full vote on CISA, so what can we expect?
Well, the majority leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, predicted about a week ago that the Senate would have the votes to pass this bill, and so far it appears to be playing out that way. There was a procedural vote last week, and the Senate voted by about 83 to 14 to move forward with the bill, and that'll allow the Senate to wrap up tomorrow. So what you can expect is a series of votes on a bunch of amendments, and then a final vote on whether to pass the bill through the Senate.
And if it does pass, what happens next?
Well, assuming that the Senate does pass this bill, whatever it passes will have to be reconciled with a pair of similar bills that were passed by the House earlier this year. And what usually happens when the House and Senate have different bills is that there's a conference between the two chambers, and then there's an agreement that has to go back and be approved by both chambers.
All right, before we wrap this up, I want you to tie it all together for us. How will CISA impact the average American, and what effect will the bill have on online companies like Twitter?
Well, as I said previously, the privacy advocates are really concerned about this bill being a surveillance measure. In fact, they've called it a surveillance bill in disguise. The sponsors have pushed back against that and said that's not the purpose of this bill, and that they've added a bunch of safeguards to ensure that doesn't happen. A key thing will be what happens in the implementation process, and of course Congress will have an oversight role there. And so we can expect privacy advocates to be closely watching how this bill is implemented going forward.
Alexei Alexis, Capitol Hill's cybersecurity reporter for Bloomberg BNA. Thanks so much.
Thank you.